Welcome to our weekly devotions here at the Gutenberg Saints. I would like to read to you from the book of Genesis, and we are actually taking a little short excursion out of Exodus back to Genesis, to the end of Genesis, Genesis 50, beginning in verse 15. Realizing that their father was dead, Joseph's brothers said, What if Joseph still bears a grudge against us and pays us back in full for all the wrong we have done to him? So they approached Joseph, saying, Your father gave us this instruction before he died. Say to Joseph, I beg you, forgive the crime of your brothers and the wrong that they did in harming you. Now therefore, please forgive the crime of your servants of the God of your father. Joseph wept. Joseph wept when they spoke to him. Then his brothers also wept, fell down before him and said, We are here as your slaves. But Joseph said to them, Do not be afraid. Am I in the place of God? Even though you intended to do harm to me, God intended it for good, in order to preserve a numerous people, as God is doing today. So, have no fear. I myself will provide for you and your little ones. In this way, he reassured them, speaking kindly to them. Peace to you, my dear friends. It is fall. It is most definitely starting to feel the cool air blowing through the streets of Gutenberg. This week, we take a short journey back in time, back into the days of Joseph in Egypt. We were recently talking about Moses and the people leaving Egypt, but now we're going to take a step back because I feel it's appropriate for this week. In this short narrative, in which we find at the ritual end of Genesis, Joseph's brothers are once again invited into their brother's presence. But they are worried. They are worried that he still carries a grudge. Now, if anyone has a right to carry a grudge, it would be Joseph. But first we need to be reminded that Joseph himself was anything but a perfect little brother. In fact, much often the opposite. Now, I am the youngest of 4 brothers, so I know that story all too well. And Joseph's dad did not help that situation any. In fact, he made it worse. And Jacob, Joseph's dad, should have known better. He should have remembered what it was like to grow up in a family where one child is favored over another. But good old Jacob had his favorites. He had his favorite wife and his favorite children. In fact, they were a matched pair. But I digress. Joseph's brothers had enough of the favoritism, enough of Joseph's dreams and visions. So they decided to rid of themselves of this problem child forever. When he came up and they were tending the flocks in land far away, they decided among them that this might be a good time to kill him. But instead they put him down into a dry well. Later they decided instead of killing him, they would sell him off as a slave. You see, in either way, Joseph was dead to them. Sadly enough, this is not an ancient problem. I've witnessed many families filled with turmoil, where one or more members of the family get written off as dead. This comes in even in regards to a parent who is written off as dead long before their time. Many times no one really knows the real root of the turmoil. And sometimes this problem transgresses generations, becoming a pattern from one generation down to the next. And the only way to make a change is to be the change, to make the concerted effort with families that things will be different, that we will identify destructive behaviors, that we will try our best to create healthy, whole families. And this is a task that doesn't take a week or a day, but takes a lifetime of change. Joseph's life in Egypt was very tumultuous. Spent time as a slave, spent time in jail. He could have been a bitter, revengeful person because of all that had happened to him. But instead, he used his experience to create a way of saving people's lives. When I think about people in our own world, I think of a lady by the name of Mary Jo Copeland from Minneapolis. She was abused and abandoned as a child, often being chained to her own bed. When she was older, she was married. And after raising 6 boys and 6 girls, she started an institution known as Sharing and Caring Hands. It is a place where homeless people can find help. You see, she knows what it's like to be poor. So oftentimes you would find Mary Jo, even as she grew older, kneeling at the feet of a homeless person, washing their feet, then putting healing salve on them, and then finding some new socks and shoes for that person. She has used her early life as a fuel for her life of service to the poor of the streets. She can identify with their experience. She has said before, she had a choice. She could make her life bitter, or she can make her life better. Mary Jo has decided to make a difference rather than being better, rather than being bitter. And now we come upon today's scene, where the older brothers are together again, this time after their father's death. Now the older brothers are still worried. They're concerned that Joseph still might hold a grudge for all the bad things they did to him. But Joseph tells them that God was able to work through these events. Not that God caused them, but God was able to work through them to save many people. And we need to note here that it was not only the family that would later become to be considered as Israelites that were saved, but also the many people of Egypt and the surrounding areas were saved by God's working with and through Joseph. The amazing thing is that we encounter God in the same manner in our world today. While we might not witness the mighty hand of God coming whirling out of the sky to change our world, I will never ever go as far as stating that any virus or tragedy comes as a message from God. This does not mean that God is not able to work through them, calling people and utilizing the people in the same manner as Joseph to help save the lives of people in so many ways. We live in a time and a place where so many people are asking, where is God? The response is the same as it ever has been. The response is God is right here, as God has always been, working through people like you and me, working to bring peace to broken people and into broken situations, working to bring life when all we hear about is war and destruction. God is here to bring love when all we hear about is hate and divisiveness. God is here, and God works mightily through you and me and all of God's children. God is here. God is at work, just as Jesus has promised. Amen.